Can you talk to her about the food that they've been sitting in here?
Well, I don't know why you don't like the food that everybody else eats in the world. Well, that's good lunch.
I don't eat that.
Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we are going to be talking about a very sad subject, actually. We're going to be talking about a person that was on My 600 Pound Life has sadly actually passed away. So the person that we're going to be talking about is Latonya. So Latonya was on My 600 Pound Life a few years ago. And in this article on NBC, it talks about how she passed away. My 600 Pound Life star, Latonya Patine, dies at 40. Patine, who appeared on the season 11 of TLC reality series, passed away May 17th in Louisiana. But before we get into kind of talking about the fact that she is no longer with us, I do want to share a little bit about her story and her journey. We can't really go over the actual clips from TLC because they copyright claim, but I do want to just play a little bit of this in the background so you guys can kind of get an idea of what what Latonya looked like and just the idea of what was going on. And so Latonya actually had gone in to see Dr. Now years and years before she was actually on My 600 Pound Life. She went to his office. I don't know if it was I don't think it was on the show, but she went to his office on her own accord when she was about 500 pounds a few years ago, like probably, I think it's 7 years ago at the point of recording this, because she was trying to get some help. Sadly, nothing ended up working out, but then she ended up coming back onto the show when she was over 600 pounds and seeking out Dr. Now's help. Now, Latonya really struggled, obviously, with her weight a lot. And in this video that we are kind of playing in the background, they talk a little bit about her journey and her story. And I think it's interesting because anyone that ends up being the size that Latonya is, or, 500, 600, 700 pounds, there's almost always trauma that is related to that. And that's something that they explored in these videos where they're talking about her past. She had her mom pass away when she was very young at 12 years old from a heart attack, which led her to actually living with her sister, who is a little bit older than her. And her dad ended up leaving with another woman or something like that, which really bothered her. But I do want to say one thing about 600 Pound Life. Like, this shot is just gratuitous and just completely unnecessary. So we're going to go ahead and skip that. But so she talks about this trauma that she ended up having, which led her to, eating and then just kind of slowly gaining weight. She ended up being on her own at 15. I think she got a place to live. And then from there, that's when the weight really kind of slowly started to creep on, until it became a problem, until it became something that she, was kind of out of her control, something that she felt that she couldn't do anything about. Another thing that the show kind of focused on was the people that were around Latonya, right? Because if you are that size, there's almost always people around you that kind of, the term they use and the term a lot of people use is like kind of enable you, right? Enable you to be that size. And I think a lot of times it's really easy to look at these people that are quote unquote helping someone be that size and you see them as like a negative, right? Oh my God, how could you let someone be here? But it really does seem from the clips that I saw, her fiance and I think that's her nephew, the guy with the longer hair is her nephew. And then that's her fiance in the white shirt. It seemed like they genuinely did care about her and they tried to help her in the ways that they felt that they could, right? I do believe that it's really easy to be on the outside looking in and see someone that is her size and just say, well, you just tell her to stop eating and just don't let her eat. I think that, in a perfect world, maybe that would work, but I think that life is a little bit more complicated and nuanced than that. And so I do believe that they were trying to help in a way that they could. But clearly, it just ended up not working out for them. But, in a lot of the clips that they showed her fiance at the time, it seemed like he was someone that did at least care about her and cared for her to a certain extent. So I do feel bad for him and I hope that he is doing well with, everything that is going on right now. So this other video that we're going to kind of have playing in the background, and there is a little clip that hopefully I'll be able to play that won't get flagged. But this is kind of more her journey while she was actually on the show. So the thing with Latonya is that if you're someone that did watch the show or you're, you know a little bit about the show, if it feels like this show will have people that are success stories and are like the angels, and then they have the people that are kind of the villains, right? And so Latonya certainly was a villain on the show, someone that wasn't listening, that didn't do any of the things that they were told, that she was consistently making excuses. And while I think all of those things can certainly be true, I struggle with believing everything the show gives us. I think if we've all the stuff that we've talked about with these shows, a lot of the stuff is fabricated to an extent, or things are blown out of proportion. So I don't want to sit here and be like, Latonya's evil and she deserved this to happen to her. But certainly, the fact of the matter is that she did go in to get this weight loss surgery, and she was told when she showed up there the first time, she's going to need to lose 30 to 40 pounds in a month. You know, if you know Dr. Now, you know that that's what he says to almost every single person, right? She says that she was willing to do that. She comes back a month later and she has gained like 6 pounds, right? So not lost any weight and has only gained weight. So that's when kind of the problems started, right? Because she's supposed to lose 30 to 40 pounds, which is, you know, might seem like a lot if you're someone that's, you know, not 700 almost pounds, but when you are that size, losing that amount of weight in that amount of time is not something that is unfeasible, right? It's certainly possible. If you watch the show, you know that it's something that does happen. And I think basically from there, it just seemed like there were certainly, and I'm not trying to say here that say that she wasn't making excuses, because she certainly was. There was a lot of excuses that she was making, and it just seemed like, sadly at this point, those excuses that she was making ended up leading to the fact that she is no longer with us, right? Which genuinely is very sad. It might be easy to be like, well, that's not something I would do, but clearly this is someone that had a lot of issues going on that led to her making those decisions. Not saying those decisions were the right ones to make, certainly not. I think that those absolutely were the wrong ones, but it doesn't mean that I can't empathize with the situation that she was in. So as far as this video goes, you know, this initial part is her kind of showing up initially, talking about her weight, and then Dr. Now is trying to give her advice, saying you need to lose this amount of weight. And then we kind of fast forward to when she ends up being at home. They get her a physical trainer, who is this person right here, who is, you know, trying to help her with the movements and stuff like that. And they're kind of saying, you know, she is trying, but, you know, the diet could be a little bit better. And it doesn't seem like it's, you know, she's really sticking to it too much. And then again, we go to this clip, which is her eating fried chicken and fries. And this seems like it's either a nurse or like a caretaker that's at the house with her that helps her day to day, who is also saying like, I don't know if eating this is the best food, you know, but, you know, she is trying, but she's definitely kind of cheating on her diet. So again, people that are around that maybe want to help, but obviously they're not going to babysit this person. They, you know, Latonya is someone that can make her own decisions. And I think that seems to be the issue. And then again, we kind of skip to this moment in the video, and this is when she gets there and she's only gained weight, and Dr. Now obviously is annoyed, you know, how he gets, and so that's kind of what ends up happening there. And they fast forward to this clip, which is her with, I assume it's some sort of therapist, where she's, you know, that's when they kind of get into the backstory. She's talking about her past with her, you know, the fact that her mother passed away from a heart attack, which sadly is what ended up taking her life as well, and how that really affected her and all of the trauma that came along with that. And so that's what she's kind of sharing here. But then, and this is very interesting, she ends up back at the hospital. So the reason that she is back at the hospital in this clip is because she was having some serious pain in her legs that she was really worried about. And so her fiance called Dr. Now and they brought her into the hospital. And while she's in the hospital, she ends up being there for, I think it's like a month or a little under a month. And in that time, she ends up losing almost 50 pounds, or maybe it's even more than 50 pounds, but the amount of weight that they had been trying to get her to lose. So, you know, it just goes to show that if you put in the effort, the weight loss can happen, you know, if you're someone that size, which is clear. But this is when we're going to get into the clip that I'm going to try and play, because this is when kind of a viral moment kind of in the show happens with Latonya and Dr. Now. And so let's go ahead and watch this clip and see kind of what plays out. So a little bit of backstory here. You know, they're talking about the food that is being served to her, and she's a little frustrated with that food. And so as you can see, as you can guess, that's probably why this, you know, clip went viral. But let's go ahead and watch a little bit about this.
She can come talk to you?
Yes, sir. Can you talk to her about the food that they've been sitting in here?
So she says, can you talk about the food that they've been sending in here? Because she's not happy with the food that they had sent her.
Well, I don't know why you don't like the food that everybody else eats in the world.
So he's saying, I don't know why you don't like the food. This is what everyone else is eating. I know I'm pausing this a lot, but I kind of have to, because if I don't, I'll get flagged.
Show me what they brought you.
This, I didn't touch it.
So he asks her to show you what was brought, right? And then she shows him the food, which seems to be like some sort of meat, beans, and she's mad that she doesn't like to eat beans at all, right?
Well, that's good. Good lunch.
I don't eat that. I don't eat beans at all. I don't even know what that is.
She said, I don't eat beans, and I don't even know what that is, right?
And this look like dog food.
You don't like meat?
I don't eat stuff like this.
But that's good nutrition. That's good protein, right?
Like, be-
So this is sad, right? Because it's clear that this is someone that it seems like, and she says this time and time again in the show, that food is her only like escape, right? It's the only thing that she feels kind of helps her numb the pain. I think she even uses those words in particular. And it's just sad because clearly this thing that is numbing the pain is also the thing that is ending her life prematurely, right? And it just seems like and this is something that's very common, especially if you've watched My 600-Pound Life, right? Where a lot of these people will say, I want to do whatever it takes to lose the weight. I need to do whatever it takes. I want to have a family. I want to be around for my family. I want to be here, right? But then when when the rubber hits the road and it's time to do the things that need to happen, oh, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to eat that. And it's just like, well, do you want to do whatever it takes? Because this is the bare minimum, right? This is the bare minimum as far as whatever it takes is not eating an exorbitant amount of food, right?
I don't eat beans at all.
But how about the meat?
I don't eat that kind of meat. I haven't really ate nothing since I've been here.
You're not going to fade away.
So she says, I haven't really eaten anything since I've been here. And he says, you're not going to fade away, right? And it's funny because earlier in the clip, they were kind of talking about, oh, you're going to do whatever it takes. And then she says, yes, I want to do that. And Dr. Now says, well, just so you know, you've had, he's kind of joking, but you know how Dr. Now is. He's like, you've eaten enough food for the next 4 years, right? So like basically if you don't eat anything, you'll be okay, is what he's saying to her. And that's kind of what they end up talking about here.
You're going to be fine.
I still have to eat something.
No. You're eating the food that belongs to the next 4 years ahead of time. So if you don't eat, you're going to be all right.
So he says, you've eaten the food for the next 4 years, so if you don't eat, you're going to be all right. And, she's clearly upset about that, but that was a very viral moment that was, kind of everywhere when it first played out, which, again, understandable. I can see why it would be, a viral moment, but it's clear this is someone that desperately needs to lose weight, has people that are trying to help, but even with all that help, it sadly didn't end up being enough. That brings us to the current situation and this article, right? So again, My 600-Pound Life star, Latonya Pottain, dies at 40. Pottain, who appeared on season 11 of TLC reality series, passed away May 17th in Louisiana. Latonya Pottain, a former star of My 600-Pound Life, has passed away. Pottain passed away May 17th at Christus Highland Medical Center at age 40 in Shreveport, Louisiana, according to, I don't know how to say that word, Parish Coroner's Office report. Pottain's preliminary cause of death was listed as acute or chronic congestive heart failure, and her manner, and the manner of her death was listed as natural. A final autopsy is pending. Patine appeared on season 11 of TLC reality series after she had struggled to lose weight for 5 years. During her time on the show, she opened up about how she had turned to food for comfort after losing her mother at a young age and after her father left the family. Patine's death comes just 2 months after a GoFundMe, and so we'll read that GoFundMe, was created in February to help her seek medical treatment during the most challenging time in her life. And so this is the GoFundMe right here. And it's her trying to raise money. So Latonya's path to medical treatment and hope, right? So help Latonya get the medical care she desperately needs. Hi, my name is Latonya, and I'm reaching out for help during the most challenging time of my life. I'm currently getting close to my highest weight of 740 pounds, and I worked extremely hard to get it down. Now I weigh about 705 pounds, and I've been bedridden since June 2024 due to severe health issues. My journey with weight struggles has been a long and difficult one. In 2022, I was featured on My 600-Pound Life, where I started at 531 pounds and worked hard to get down to 505. However, after the show was aired, I experienced overwhelming backlash, which sent me into a deep depression. My mental health suffered, and I became fearful of undergoing weight loss surgery. In 2023, I moved to Houston, hoping for a fresh start, but instead, I found myself in bad relationship while also dealing with a devastating news that my father had been diagnosed with cancer. Unable to take the emotional and physical toll, I returned home to Louisiana. Unfortunately, my health continued to decline and I developed severe sciatica nerve pain, which caused extreme stomach cramps. I was prescribed fentanyl, but my body rejected the medication, leading to me to begin therapy. Now, I don't know exactly who, was in this relationship with her. If it was the person that we were talking about before, well then, everything I said, I take it back. But it is what it is there. I hope that that's not the case, but sadly things like that happen. So she goes on to say, now I'm completely bedridden and unable to get to the hospital because EMTs say transporting me would be a fire hazard due to my weight. Without the ability to work, I have no income to purchase a car or arrange for special medical transportation. I am asking for your help to raise funds for medical transportation so I can get to the hospital for urgent care, proper medical treatment, and rehabilitation to regain my mobility, basic living expenses, since I am currently unable to work. This has been an extremely difficult journey, and I truly want to fight for my health and my life. Any amount you can contribute will bring me one step closer to the care I desperately need. If you're unable to donate, please share my story, yada, 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 right? So it seems like, sadly, she kind of fell into this cycle of wanting help, but then it seems like not putting in the necessary effort to really see any change, right? And that's something that we see pretty frequently. But let's just finish the rest of this article that we were reading, right? She goes on to say, I'm currently, so this is kind of the stuff that she wrote in the fundraiser. And then it said, Patine said she weighed 531s at the beginning of her season of My 600-Pound Life and worked hard to get down to 505. However, after the show aired, so it's kind of just going over the stuff that was being said in the GoFundMe. And then it goes in the end. Pottain said she had hoped to raise enough funds to support herself and also afford medical transportation to receive the medical care she required. This has been an extremely difficult journey, she wrote, and I truly want to fight for my health and my life. So, sadly, that didn't end up happening, and she ended up passing away. And it seems like it's sad because I do believe that this is something that was preventable, right? If she would have been able to stick to, the weight loss goals that she had, even 7 years ago, right? When she went to Dr. Now, not on the show, I believe, and was trying to do that when she wasn't even 500 pounds, right? It just goes to show, and this is something that we talk a lot about, right? When you are someone that is mobile to an extent, because even when she was on the show, she could walk, but she didn't walk much. She had a scooter that she used to get around, or like a motorized wheelchair that she used to get around. And that was something that Dr. Now was really trying to get her off of. And a big reason for that is because once you become bedridden, man, it makes things a lot more difficult, right? And it seems like that's kind of what happened here. Once once she ended up becoming bedridden, a lot of things started going downhill from there. And so I just wanted to share this story. It's more than anything, it's just a sad story of someone that seemed like wanted to help, but maybe wasn't in the place to put the effort in to make that happen for themselves, and ended up passing away a lot sooner than they needed to. I do, only wish well for the people in her life that were not hurting her, right? But like that were genuinely trying to. Thanks for the person that just followed me on Twitch. But that were genuinely trying to help her, right? And that, did love her, right? Because this is sad, and this is someone that passed away too soon. But that's kind of the whole story of everything that had happened. I wanted to share this, but, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, this is what you get for being that size, It is part of why it's a problem being that size, but I think that it is important to understand that these are still people at the end of the day, and they have things that they're going through. But that's kind of what's going on. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching it. I appreciate you very much, and I will see you next time. Peace.